and APAC. So we're starting to build a new organization around the sales department. So I'm head of sales in EMEA as it is right now. So, well, actually, that's all from me. So I'm just going to hand over to Ia.
All right. Well, Chana. She definitely know more Swedish or Norwegian at this point, but we'll start with hello. That's me. I am a functional consultant in M3 and have been for about 5 years. I've worked with LeanSwift for about 4 of those, give or take. Time flies, so it's kind of hard to keep track. I am an M3 certified consultant in procurement and warehousing. You can see down there on the bottom. But I also do things in manufacturing, which is my primary focus at this point in most of my projects, but also customer order management, supply chain execution, purchasing, pretty much everything but finance is where I where I work. I've been involved in global implementations of M3. I've been in rollouts, US rollouts where the solution has already been developed in other countries, and we're rolling it out and customizing it and managing the changes for US customers. And then I've also been involved in process improvement projects like MRP, personalizations, building up some of those home pages and widgets that we'll take a look at in a little bit. But as Frederick said, LeanSwift has been involved in many projects in many different industries: food, fashion, chemicals, and actually I was working on the first cloud implementation of the CloudSuite. We went live a year ago in January, so it's been 15 months. Sorry, 14 months, I don't know how to count. So that's been exciting. I am an avid conqueror of 13ers and 14ers. For those of you who don't know, that is a mountain that is 13,000 or 14,000 feet high. Something that we would look at like this. So I'm from Colorado. This is colorful Colorado. I'm a little homesick. I am currently in Belfast, so I thought I'd share a couple pictures of what Colorado looks like. So if you ever get a chance, go take a visit. All right, so let's jump in. So today we're going to look at JavaScript. That's going to be our primary focus. Then we'll take a look at some home pages and how those can look and help some usability and what Infor has to offer and how to update. And we can look at how to update a couple parts of that. And at the end, we can have a longer Q&A session. But if you have a question, feel free to just shout it out there. We're not going to get too technical, so I'm not going to code a JavaScript here for you, but we can look at how we can use the JavaScript and how to deploy the JavaScript to make life easier. And same with the home pages. Okay, so what can we do with the JavaScript? Pretty much anything, but for the most part, we want to focus on extending M3 functionality. Maybe you want to automate some processes in M3 or update other information within the database interactively. So with interactively, or maybe even validate stuff. So using the JavaScripts, we can do all these things. But a JavaScript isn't always the right solution. So when do you need to use a JavaScript? And that's going to be a question that I can't answer definitively here, and no one can. It really rests on what your issue is, what your request is, and how you want to solve that. So usually I get questions related to displaying data or jumping between programs, or even automating some processes and extending M3's interactive programs. There are other solutions in M3 that can accomplish this. So we can use personalizations to highlight certain fields or even make fields mandatory to fill out. We don't have to use JavaScripts for that. We can use CMS 005 and 010 to extend the list views and the list views within standard programs, or even make our own program in CMS 010, much like an ad hoc report, but interactive. So we can create a new delivery toolbox that doesn't have so many options, but we can tie other tables to it. So we can use CMS010 for that. You also have the ability to, in the background, based on events that happen in M3, call APIs, automations, if you've seen those still work in Cloud Edition, so we can use those. Personalized shortcuts or bookmarks can help you jump around and take data from the screen and use it in other programs. So we can use all that stuff, or we can jump into the deeper end of the pool and do workflows and web apps. So is a JavaScript right for you? Maybe. Are there other things we can do? Maybe. You just have to look and see. But we definitely want to keep that in mind when we're doing all this stuff, that there may be easier, less time-consuming solutions if we look at what Cloud Edition and 13.4 has to offer. All right. So, brief introduction. Let's jump right in and we can take a look at a JavaScript that we have going, or a few. Okay, so we'll start with an area that most people start to work with is customer order entry and customer order management. So I have a customer here, and we're going to put in an order, and we're going to look at a couple scripts along the way. And we're going to say we want an order. We want it Tuesday. Doesn't really matter. Right. So we'll start our order. Oh, where'd it go? I guess. Took a second to load. I don't know why. But here's our first script. So I had a customer. What they wanted to do was actually see the customer text that they had written in ISO 35. But that text is in a big text block, which has a bunch of multiple lines, which has, when you save it in the database, is saved in 60 character increments. But they wanted to be able to see that all within the text block here when they were putting the order entry in case they had notes or anything that they wanted to keep track of on the customer, and see it right here in the text block. So we made a text. There we go. If the information is wrong, the text is difficult to update and stuff from an interactive like this. Probably possible to do it in JavaScript, but to update it, I made a link, an automation link that drives us right to ISO 35, and we can update it there. But we have our JavaScript here, so we can take a look at that one. I do have that open on my computer. And this is what I've written, what I've done for the JavaScript. So a lot of these JavaScripts that I've done and I've helped work with other people, we've kind of worked the same. I kind of cannibalize and reuse the same stuff over and over again. So you can see here, I'm taking advantage of the arguments that Infor has developed for the page. So for the personalizations, we can place this script using the arguments. Just standard stuff. We're going to place it. This is how big we want to make it. And we come down, and if I scroll down here, just in simple terms, we're grabbing values from the interactive, and then we're putting it in probably an old request, probably an old method of requesting the API. It still works, and there's probably better ways to write this. At this point, the JavaScripts were always going to change. There are always going to be new developments and stuff, so you may want to be able to update these as you go along, but for now, this works, and we can see they were pulling it into a text area, and that was, in this case, the hardest part of the script, was to pull back all the text and display it in one text block that actually looked okay. So there's that. So a simple script, we're just displaying information that we want to see in M3. Okay. So let's get into maybe a more automation of processes script. So if you notice, I have an extra button down here. It says I want to calculate cold packs. So a customer that we had in the past sold chocolate, and in the US it gets very hot in the summer. So to keep the chocolate from melting, they wanted the ability to add ice packs to the order. And depending on some things within the order itself and the customer, it could be free, it could not be free. And then they wanted to know how many they actually needed. So we needed to, figure out how many items we would fit in a box, how many cold packs we needed for each box. And so to do that, we used the JavaScript. So if I order an item, so let's see, 3. Oh, you saw my other one there. You can come back to that. I want 40. Get the price in there. I need a price. Okay. So I put it on my order line. So I can see that these are chocolate. The customer wanted to be able to do this interactively and say and decide if they really needed the cold packs, but not how many. That's or what to charge. So we have a button. So I'll click my button. Yes, I would like to add a cold pack. And here it tells me my cold pack item, how many I need based on how many items I ordered, how many of those fit in a box. So 10 fit in a box. And in our case, we can see that it added a price of 0. So based on what I have in here in my order and the settings I have in the background, the script calculated that the customer should get this for free. I don't have to charge the customer for the cold packs that I'm ordering. And then I can add my item. And I get my normal sales warning, but that's okay. So I have that on there. I should be able to click this again and get a warning. No, I didn't get the warning. But you can see if I click it again, it doesn't work. So there's some checks in there to say if I have it or not. So in this case, the easiest way for us to do this was a JavaScript, or the best way. And we can look at that one as well. That one is here. So with the help, or mostly my friend helped me with this, and we built this script and tested it extensively. But again, we can see taking advantage of the arguments, so we can reuse parts of this. Coming down, I don't know why it keeps doing that. It's like a weird. See, all right. Are we checking for our cold packs in the order? Yes. Are we looking for the packaging terms? So some setup in the background in M3. So using parts of M3 to drive the JavaScript is probably always a good idea. So you're not hard coding or hard coding as many things in the script. So if you can use M3 to have to update or make some decisions, that's always helpful. Yeah, here getting the date. So every time I look at these scripts that I've done in the past, I always see things that I would prefer to do differently. And in this case, I look at the date and say, that was probably a poor way to get the date. Instead of taking it from the screen, I probably should have called the APIs to get the date from the actual database. So then I wouldn't have to play with the date to make it work right. So yeah, it's always a learning experience, but something that I think is important with these is always to come back and review what you've done and think of what you could have done better for the next time. And in my case on this one, the date kind of drives me crazy sometimes. And then here we can see we're running through all the order lines, trying to find items on our order that meet our criteria. So in the background in M3, we've made a list of items that require cold packs. And then in the API, in our JavaScript here, we go and look at that to decide, are any items that we have on our order, do they need cold packs? And so that's what we're doing here. So we're using some stuff in M3, again, to determine what meets the criteria in the JavaScript for the JavaScript to work. So that was good. And then at the end we have our question. Do we want to add any cold packs? So you saw the dialog box pop up. There we go. And then you can see that. So yeah, so that's how this one works. And it's always a good idea to come back and check and review what you've done in the past and learn from what you've done. So we have all this simple interactive here, and I can always come back in and change my order. Let's change that. Let's see, okay, in order 10. And if I calculate my cold packs this time, I should get a price. I do. So I have it blank, so I have a sales price. Don't have to worry about any of that. There we go. So having the JavaScript work hand in hand with setup in M3, always better than trying to code all that in JavaScript. So an actual script that's in a live environment. And so now we can keep our chocolate from melting. One other script we do have on here is one that Infor loves to show to everyone, and that is the autocomplete or their autocomplete script. So if I type in, that didn't work for me. You need 0. Oh, well, you can see something's trying to load, but I don't know why it's not searching for me. I guess that's a interesting one, but they have one, their autocomplete script, and if you've ever seen a demo or watched any kind of presentation from Infor, they have a script that will search the item and pull back information about it. So I don't know why it's not working. It worked last time. Oh well, that's okay. So we're done with that one. So that's one script. So we've extended the interactive. And work interactively with the program. Another request or another thing we can do is have scripts work in the background that we don't see. So when I open this page, a script is running in the background that you can't see. So if you look at our developer tools, oh man, all kinds of errors. Okay. If we look in the console, we can see we have a script here that's running in the background. Don't know if that is, but so without knowing it, without the user actually knowing, we have something in the background that we're going to use to extend the functionality of M3. So a customer that we had the requirement, so they're in food and beverage. They would produce pallets of, in our case, they would produce pallets of product. Each pallet had to have its own lot number, but a quality inspection test would be done on the manufacturing run. So let's do that. So here we can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 lots in QMS 300. So we're going to report quality on 5 manufacturing lots, all produced from the same manufacturing order. And if they're only testing it on the manufacturing order type, on the manufacturing order, they wanted to push those results to all the other tests that they selected that were part of that run. So in the background, we're doing that. We're going to select. We're going to select these 3 lots, and we're going to use the related option to go and test that. So I want to close this real quick. So I'm going to report my test results. And if we look in our console real quick, we can see that we're saving information into the actual browser cache. And up here we have another button. So this script is actually, or this solution is actually using 2 scripts hand in hand. One to push information into the browser cache. The second to take that information from the browser cache and use it in the next step. Use it to push this information out to the other stuff, out to another API. So if I come in here and I report my quality inspection. All right, so all my tests passed. I can report my tests. Something happened in the background. Probably need to add some dialog blocks as we do this. But as we go along, we can see, okay, so lot number 1, and the way I had this set up, lot number 2, receive the same answers. And lot number 3, again, all the same answers. So all those selected things that I did, I pushed information into the browser cache so that I could take that information out and use it to populate information in my other tests. Oh, how did we do that? So if you come back up here. We created some constants that we're going to use to push data into the cache and then to clear it out when we come back into QMS 400 or 300. So because we don't need it anymore. So this is the first one. So this is looking at our list and down here. So this is looking at our list and it's looking at the item number and it's going to say, I can only report quality test on the same item. The lot number doesn't quite matter, the order doesn't quite matter, but we're more interested in controlling the lots. So if I go and I try to select multiple items to report a test on, so if I try to take these 2 guys and report a test on it, I get another. I get a warning message. I can't. I can't progress. So that's our first step here. So using that. Then down here, at the time, we were limited by our by how we could grab the information. So here we are grabbing the information by column index. Today, in another script, I'll show you how to deploy. You can grab it by the actual name. So here we are. So here we can see we're grabbing the item numbers. This is where we're using it to check if they're the same. And then down here, we're building an array to push into the cache. So all the information we need to do our next step, which is reporting multiple tests and using an API that's built for this, is that we copy and update the test results of the one we answered, and then it pushes it out to all the rest. So if we look here, we can see we're grabbing that information from the cache, pulling it down with the other output in. So I hope you noticed of these 3 scripts, these are not very long. So you can automate and improve functionality and extend functionality within M3. And the scripts, this one's 100 lines, this other one barely 90, with a bunch of spaces so I can read it. And this one here where we're adding extra items, 150. So between these 3 scripts, 300 lines, more or less. So not overly complicated, not a whole lot to write down, but we can greatly extend the functionality of M3. So they don't always have to be super long. Right? So there's 2 ideas. One other thing that I just did, so I think it's in here. It's not. Okay. So if I wanted to put in a new script, the cloud makes it easy. I don't even have to go. And find the lifecycle manager. I can load scripts right from here. So in my admin tools, you can go in here. And I'm going to load a script that I wrote. Not sure where that one is. In here. It is in here. Let's see if that works. Okay. So we'll put the script in just from our database. It's in there now. Yeah, there it is. I'm going to copy that. Maybe. Nope, doesn't want to come. And then we can deploy that script right away. So as soon as we load it onto there, we can deploy it. If I find all the right buttons. I want, we'll do, come on, fast. Save. There we go. So I get my label. So here I can immediately go and put in a script and then start using it to print out my put away labels. So probably a simple one. We're calling the API based off of our columns to print the put away label because in M3, for whatever reason, it's the only way to reprint your put away label is to call the API. So again, extending functionality within M3 to print or to interactively extend this, our use of M3. So here you can see it found all the data, and hopefully it should call the program. Yeah, so there we go. Takes a hot minute, but there we go. So very quickly, you can deploy these as well. So a couple quick clicks, and then we're in. So JavaScript, adding extensibility. Pretty straightforward. So one of the things that I was asked in the past was, what's some advice or practices you can use for the JavaScripts? And here on the left are the ones that I came up with. The one on the right, I was on another, a similar webinar with the UK user group, and we talked a little bit about that, but they were very quiet. But definitely collaboration, so working with someone to make your JavaScripts better, to test them with each other, to to work in collaboration is good. Consistent construction. So whether your company has a standard that should be followed or you have your own standard, definitely being consistent in the way you create these scripts is important. So then people like me, the functional guys, can read it, maybe even get in there and edit and update some of those scripts themselves so they don't have to bug you. One of the other things that I found are really helpful for me, and when I give these, give some of the scripts out to add fields or to use the autocomplete, is to put in notes and examples of what you're talking about. So what I mean is, if we look in here, I'm using the arguments to place a lot of this stuff around the screen, and not everyone knows what that means. So if we put in arguments or put in some information about, what am I doing? I'm positioning the label X and Y, or positioning the button X and Y, and where do I want it? And we can play with that. Some other examples. This one has examples in it. This one I just So this one, some examples of what information do we need to put in the arguments so that it makes sense. So field names, a heading, and then placement of that and where I did it. So we can, go look at an example of what happened when it came out and what I typed in to make it work. So always helpful, because this one didn't have any examples. It was more of guessing how it worked. So I had to update that. So always helpful. Use the M3 names, because then that's straightforward. M3 comes up with all the names for you. So in your scripts, and you can see what I did is that when we're looking to grab field values and looking to populate, when you're looking for field values to make variables and constants, use the M3 name, because then you can remember where it came from. I can find it, another functional consultant can find it, another colleague won't have to guess what variable n is or variable x. So kind of obvious, but one that I've seen people don't follow. And then probably the best thing you can do is transferability and reusability. So making standard things, this is how we place a button. We're going to reuse this part every time we want to use a button. We're going to use this every time we want to put in a field or anything like that. And then also use the arguments in M3. So then you can see I can place that button or that box anywhere. I don't have to get into the code and change it. I can just use the arguments. So that is my question to you guys, a little bit of interactive. You've heard me talk for 20 minutes, half an hour now. In your experience, what are some good pieces of advice? If you want to unmute and shout out. Nope.
Feel free, everybody.
Yeah.
I'd love to come with some advice, but I have zero experience in this, so.
Yeah.
So sorry, I have nothing to come with.
No worries, no worries. So we'll look at the next one. Our scripting resources. Obviously, Infor has their SDK for the H5, and I can share that with. And you guys can have that. There is the user group in the UK. There is your own user group, the Infoteam in Norway, that you maybe have a chat group on that you can start posting these around to each other. Infor does have their own community at this website here to look at H5 scripting. It's not terribly active, but there are some things in there, and people do check it from time to time. We have the Smart Office blog that is out there. They have a whole, I guess one blog that people keep chatting back and forth on about scripting that we can look at, and that's very informative and very helpful. There's lots of people, and that's active almost every day. This last one, or the penultimate one, the M3 ideas. It's older. Thibaut has since moved on from what he was doing before from M3, so he doesn't update it anymore. But if you go back and look, there are some good ideas to see what he was doing to add fields and play around and kind of get your feet wet into scripting. And then the best resource is you guys, everyone that's on this call. So definitely use each other to bounce script ideas off of and talk about best ways to get around. If you hit a roadblock, always using each other is a good idea. We have our scripting, all of our resources. So that's kind of a crash course in JavaScript and some ideas on how those can be used within live environments and in some actual examples that are working at various customers. So home pages. We're going to switch gears. So the home pages are a landing page for the users. It shouldn't be where they do all their work. It should direct them on what they need to do or highlight the important information. So more of a summary than actual getting into M3 and doing some work. With this, we can differentiate the roles. So we can have specific home pages for specific people. So you can have, in purchasing, you can have a bunch of buyers and then the buyer manager, and they each have different pages to highlight different information on what they need to do. Same thing with production. You can have a production manager that has a higher overview, and then the people on the floor which just have links or maybe just quick information about what the schedule is for the day, and then jump right into reporting and the actual orders they're doing. But yeah, just a landing spot to have them jump into M3. It's not a replacement of M3. So, the home page is divided up into a bunch of widgets. These widgets, each of the little boxes, have their own pluses and minuses. Some are more useful, some are more fun. So definitely the bookmarks and the quick links, very helpful. You can jump into M3 or other places around the internet. Information viewers and monitors to collect information that's important to see at the beginning of your day, or when you want to highlight important information. Tasks, alerts, notifications. So if they need to work with workflows or get alerts from M3, having different mailboxes for all of those different kinds of notifications is good. And then a good one to look at is the M3 product updates, which keeps you up to date with the new things that M3 Cloud Edition is pushing out. So it highlights that information and then directs you to Concierge and I think CMS 975 to go look at if the actual update is turned on or not. Some of the more fun ones, you have the Ion API traffic. You can see how many API calls you're calling. Maybe more helpful for an system admin. The workflow viewer, you can see the actual workflow and where the tasks are on the workflow in kind of a map. So if you laid the workflow out on a table and drew a line to where the task is, you can see that. That's what the workflow viewer does. Probably more fun than helpful. More fun than useful. Kind of helpful. Documents. You have your Mingle widgets that are like you're on a little Twitter or Facebook. You can send messages to each other and have public forum on your home pages. Just some quick social information. And then Infor did come out with 2 new widgets. There's the information editor and the information creator. So using create and update APIs, you can update information from the actual homepage. And in their first iteration, probably more fun than actually useful, but definitely a step in the right direction to maybe make some steps a little easier in M3. So they're there. In my in my opinion and experience with using them so far, it's just been more, hey, I can make a customer from the homepage. Kind of fun. All right. Let's look. We can look at a couple we have here in M3. Wow, what is going on? So, like I said, product updates, we can see what's being updated. We have information monitors, so we can have different monitors displayed there. Let me see, maybe if I log into a different one, we can see some more fun stuff. So we have monitors, we have our menu here. So these are generally links to important things in M3. So based on the role of the user, we can jump into different programs. You can go to general programs like PPS 200, or you can get, more specific. I want to jump into OIS 300 and only see orders that are allocated or in picking. So we can program that into the link and send you there to see open customer orders. Missing stuff. Again, we have our workflow viewer. It's like I said, like a map. Oops, sorry, clicked on it. That was bad. Our test. So we have our task list. So let me click on. So here, this customer was created. So we can see in our workflow, you can see the actual workflow, where are the little steps along the way. So like a little map. Not sure what those are. Someone made some notifications. You can see as you jump around, we can have different home pages and widgets, and it seems that for whatever reason some of this stuff is stuck. My computer is not happy, I guess. But much the same. So they're all kind of set up in the same way. There we go. Where you can see information. So if we have someone that's a system administrator, you can see, system administration information. We can look into, just highlighting information is all we want to show on these home pages. These home pages are all predicated on APIs. So each one of these widgets is showing you information from an API. So if you look at another environment, this one might be, you can see another environment here. Maybe for more of a production manager, we can see, all right, what are the manufacturing orders that I'm responsible for as a manager? You can come in and I can look, and I can see what's important. And if I look at configuring this, I can go into configuring, I can look at my monitors, can edit this, and we can see I'm calling PMS 100. I'm using the search MO transaction. Using the user who's logged in, we're looking to see what are the open orders, anything less than status 90 in the warehouse. And then telling it from that API what information do we want out, and if we want to order it in a specific way, we can do that here. You know, I can say I want the name first. Okay. Save. And then now when I go in here, the name comes first. So all these are APIs, which means that you can use CMS 100 APIs. If you build a new API, you can, or an MDB read API, you can use those custom APIs in these as well. So you're not limited to the standard APIs that M3 has. So we have all those, we have just a bunch of stuff. It does have the standard message box from M3, so all your standard stuff. And then just like you would have a favorites in M3, in the old M3, we have the bookmarks here where we can jump into bookmarked pages. So I'm not sure if any, let's see, if I click that, it brings me into PPS 220 with all this information saved. So I saved it as a bookmark, and then that adds it to my, oops, let's see that. Bookmarks page. I've saved it as a bookmark. And if I go back to the home page and refresh, there's my line. So you can bookmark all those like a favorite. So you can jump back in to where you were. Yes. So the other thing we can do here is also create kind of a workflow. So using the menu button, so I've added all these programs. So I can add new programs to go into M3. The bookmarks here are a little goofy. I don't know if I have them open. I don't have one open. Yeah, the bookmarks are a little goofy. So if we look at how they've made these bookmarks, or how we made these links, they're a little odd. So you have to type this whole thing in to say you want to go to BMS 170. You have to have this whole goofy URL. But I can also add my bookmarks that I've saved. So I did all those bookmarkings. And so as you implement these, you could have a subject matter expert go in and create all the bookmarks and then come in and add those. And it automatically populates this URL with all the information to take me there. Pick a little icon and we can add those. So here's the link. And again, right in. So just a quick little thing with the home pages. They're all just definitely, they're all just using the APIs in M3. So using the MI test, we can test the APIs and see what we get out, make sure it works, and then create the widget and the monitors here. Create our widget, configure, and the IAs all have these as a base, and you can start with the base and move on from there. Right, but we are coming to the end of our time, unfortunately. Home pages are a whole world unto themselves, and probably if you want to dive into those, another good session to have, and maybe one where we could actually build a home page in the session. But that's all I have for you guys this morning. Do you have any comments or questions or testimonials?
Daria, feel free.
Let's see. Look at that. We go here. Yep. No comments or anything. Let's see.
I think we have one.
I had one.
Okay.
I was wondering if you could share the scripts that you showed in the beginning.
I could probably share a couple of those. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? I guess if not.
Yeah.
H5 scripting versus M-form scripting. Is there a
Yes.
big difference there?
Yes.
Again, yeah, okay.
Yes. So if we look, I can actually show you some. So if we look here, the JavaScript. So in H5 and M3, we're using JavaScript language. We have that all here. And it looks like that. If I go and open, let's see if I can find one to open. JScripts. Those are in JScripts. So if I look at one where I'm adding a field, we can see it's quite different on the top. It looks fairly similar, and you might be able to take some information that's the same, but the language is just a little different. Now you're going to build it, and that's the wrong one with the JavaScript. Yeah, they're similar, but they you can't just copy it over. You have to play with it.
And finally, if you're a complete newbie, such as myself, where would you recommend, or do you have any inputs as to how to get started here?
Yeah, so definitely, if you go back and look, definitely start with this developer's guide. It's a little dense, but that has everything you need and all the, all the conditions to start with the SDK. And then I found this Smart Office blog is very helpful as well. So here and here. And then, if you have a technical team, definitely just, it's practice. So yeah, looking at the SDK, the Smart Office blog, and then if you can get examples, so if you have access to a cloud environment, you can go into M3. So if we jump into M3 and go to the administration, you can download any of these scripts that they have loaded in here already. So if I look for one, yeah, so I can take this one, this autocomplete one, and I can export it. And then I can go look at it. So I can...
Are the scripts that you showed us also available through there, or?
This is in my internal environment, so sure. Yeah. So any scripts that I've uploaded, yes, will be available in the environment. Any scripts you upload or anyone uploads, you can go jump in there and see the script, and then you can kind of try to understand what they're doing. Infor has done a better job lately of saying what's actually happening in their scripts. It's not just a block of JavaScript anymore. We can see that they've added information about what the sections are doing, which is good advice. Let people know what's going on in your script. So, those are there. Yeah, so that's that. And what's the other one? I think the stack one is okay. Yeah, so you can try to use Stack Overflow. And sometimes they have some Sometimes some helpful things for standard JavaScripts, but they don't have the Infor library. But, standard things of, how to set a constant, how to use an array. You can look here in Stack Overflow and get some help from them as well. All right. Well, unless there's anything else, I will let you guys go and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. And thank you very much, Ian, for your help.
Welcome. Hopefully it was helpful and informative.
Yeah. I think so.
Maybe a little here and there, but definitely.
But I suppose that people can get in touch with you if they have questions. If there is.
Yes, definitely. My email is on here, so if you have any questions or need help or just want to say hey, drop me a line.
And I will put this recorded version out of the website so you can look at it how many times you will.
Yes.
So, and then we conclude, don't we? We finish this up. And I say thank you to you all and have a nice weekend when it comes.
Good. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.